From Transformers Alternators, this is Sunstreaker, and as you can see, not only is he a repaint of not only Sideswipe, but Dead End from Alternators, he also now transforms into a Dodge Viper. I guess Lamborghini did not sign off on the idea of having model cars. And to be fair, Lamborghini, very expensive car brand, and from what I understand, Dodge Vipers are also considered very nice cars, especially domestic cars, but I don't know, man. This kind of feels like a step down. I'm not a car guy. But when I think of cool sports car, it's like Lamborghini, Ferrari, McLaren. Dodge Viper is almost more like in the realm of like Mustang and Camaro. Still cool, but not exactly like that cool international flavor, you know? Even still, this is a beautiful car mode. I love the shapes here. You can see it's very curvy, and in all honesty, this is kind of more what I would expect from like a Jazz than a Sunstreaker, but it really works. I especially love how long the hood is. You can also see there is chrome for the rims. Admittedly, on mine, it's starting to go away on that one, but that's just age on my copy. You can fold in the rear views, which is nice. Alongside that, you do have the hood that can open up. One sec. Up. And you can see there is an engine block inside. And if we come over here to the door, open it up, you can see we have the interior, we have a steering wheel, we even have a little gear shift there. Nothing in the back. I honestly thought you could open up this back window, not the case. And you can see Sunstreaker here on the back. I prefer Universe, where that says we are 84, but you know, Sunstreaker still works. It's a gorgeous car. I will say this, even though this guy came out in the early 2000s, yellow with black stripes, that's not exactly a Sunstreaker look, is it? It's a Bumblebee look. But then I remembered, oh wait, this came out like 3 years before '07 Bumblebee, so I guess this was technically Sunstreaker's look first. Look, I'm not going to be shocking anyone by saying that with Alternators, usually the priority was the car mode. That was the whole point of Alternators. It was to cater to the collectible model car market. And for the most part, they work. Look at the Mazda RX-8 Shock Blast. Look at the Hound and Swindle by extent. Even the Subaru Impreza for Silver Streak and Smokescreen. They work. Unfortunately, Sunstreaker, seeing as how Sideswipe was the second mold ever, the car mode is a little bit janky. The lines are a little bit off, and he has a hard time sticking together. And past that, there's just little details, like you can never really get the hood down. But maybe, just maybe, the robot mode can save this, but then again, I've seen pictures of the robot mode. Oh boy, that is, well, that's certainly a Sunstreaker. Guys, allow me to give you the fullest of full disclosures. Alternators had some amazing figures. I mean, again, just to name a few, both of the Ravages, the Shock Blast, the Jazz, the Trax, the Silver Streak, the Prowl, the Smokescreen, the Hound, the Swindle, Rodimus, Mirage. Honestly, most figures in Alternators are really good. Windcharger on top of all of that. The only figures from Alternators that most people seem to agree are bad are the first two molds. The first mold was Optimus, the second mold was Sideswipe. Sunstreaker is a slight remold of Sideswipe and still has most of the issues. It's not like these things nearly killed the Alternators line, but for most people, it wasn't until we got Hound and Meister that Alternators really started to pick up, and those are more kind of Wave 3, Wave 4 releases. Optimus and Sideswipe, though very impressive, were seen as being very bloated, and Sideswipe specifically is usually cited as the worst alternator, period. Even though Wheeljack and Grimlock are apparently much harder to transform, at least they're good robots. The Sideswipe mold is just kind of a mess. Before we get into that, let's talk some of the good of Sunstreaker. 1. The painted and plastic yellows are matched very well. That's something they can't even get right today, so it's very nice to see on this figure. 2. Good layout of color. Usually Sunstreaker is all yellow. That gets kind of boring. I enjoy how they've incorporated black and red and gray into the design. 3. It is a unique silhouette for Sunstreaker, and again, I kind of see some movie Bumblebee in here. 4. I like the idea of the torso. And 5. It has a great head sculpt. Very IDW. The only issue is all of those things I just said, those positives, well, they're stuck on this toy. Before we go any further, I really do want to call attention to this head. It is my favorite Sunstreaker head sculpt ever. I love how it's not entirely cartoon, and yet you still have the obvious telltale signs that it is Sunstreaker with the ears. But the thing I really like is he has bags under his eyes. He looks like a tired Sunstreaker. The story of Alternators is that most of the Cybertronians are dead now. They've all been corrupted with the sickness, and these bodies, the Binaltech process, is what's keeping them alive. So within the story of Alternators, it makes sense that Sunstreaker would look so worn out and tired. I mean, he's lost most of his compatriots. The other side of that is, it really reminds me of IDW Sunstreaker, specifically like All Hell Megatron and Phase 1 IDW Sunstreaker with Hunter Onion in his head. I really, really, really love Hunter. I loved his relationship with Sunstreaker. I love the idea of Sunstreaker being a headmaster. And even though this is not an IDW Sunstreaker, it feels about as close as we've ever gotten to IDW Sunstreaker, so for that, you get some cheap brownie points. There is a reason why I wanted Sunstreaker over Dead End or Sideswipe. It's because the head sculpt sold me on this toy more so than any of the design elements of those other two. That still doesn't change that the body is rough. I mean, let's just run down the list. The transformation was very rough. It's not all that clever, it's very rickety, and there were points where it felt like a lot of the translucent plastic was going to break. Past that, the overall design of the figure, like, there's cool elements like the door wings, but then you got the whole backpack. And unlike Shock Blast, it does get in the way. Also, look at this, it's just the entire back third of the car just hanging out back here. The legs are also very impaired. The upper body is decent. I do like the torso design, but even that, it was such a nightmare because I was worried I was going to rip the rubber of the steering wheel trying to transform this guy. In terms of articulation, you have a ball joint at the head, you have a universal here at the shoulder, you have a hinge and an upper arm cut, and a good single joint elbow, a ball joint for the hand, and a knuckle joint as well as a separate pointer finger. You have a little bit... No, nothing in the waist. Never mind. Wait. No, you do. You have a waist joint. It's just impaired by the windshield. You have a universal at the hip, but it's impaired by the big blocky waist. So you really can't go all that far forward or back. You do have a knee, but it goes about that far out because you hit the kibble again. You actually get a little bit of good side-to-side action, weirdly enough. And then down here, you have a ball joint, so you can get a little bit of range in the ankle. So you have the points of articulation, it's just they're colliding into each other, and even then, the guy has such a hard time balancing. Just look at these feet. He has basically no heel spur, and it's also being weighed down by those parts of kibble down there. So it's hard to get this guy standing in anything that isn't just a normal vanilla standing pose, and even then, he's always going to be slightly hunched. Now, he does come with an accessory. It's the engine block. Thankfully, there is a piece that folds out. At least there should be. It's very stiff on my copy. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. And it gives you a decent gun. Alternators guns are usually pretty bad. This is actually okay. So, he gets one of the better guns in Alternators. There's at least that much. Oh, come on. Open up your hand. And he can hold it decently well. So, you can at least get him in maybe a good, kind of like Han Solo. Can I get him in like a Han Solo, like shooting from the hip pose? Kinda. A little bit. Yeah, alright. I will say, this is not the best Sunstreaker toy. It's not the best looking Sunstreaker toy, that's for sure. And it's not the best alternator. It's not all that good. It's not all that good. It's important as a piece of Transformer history, but it is not terribly good.